Good evening, I'm Ted Henry.
Even if police do catch...
Don't let the news put you to sleep. Try Wilma and Ted before bed instead.
Hello.
Did you hear the latest news?
Ted Henry and Wilma Smith have been working hard to bring you today's best news tonight on TV5 Eyewitness News at 11. And before they're through, you'll be glad you waited up for them. Catch 5 at 11 for Wilma and Ted before you go to bed. You'll get to sleep a little later.
Good night.
Good night. But you'll get to sleep a little better.
Good night.
Hello, I'm Danita Harris. As you've been seeing throughout this special, Ted Henry was not your typical ordinary news anchor. He spent a lot of time away from the station covering the news, whether it was being made right here in Cleveland or around the world. And even on family vacations, Ted always had a movie camera to capture the images of his adventures.
We condensed our 17 days of travel down to about 2 minutes of film here, so if we want to take a look at the
Home
screen.
movies, really, very home movies.
Daddy shot most of them, and Joanna shot a couple of them. This is on the River Rhine, a small, beautiful community called Koblenz, up north of Frankfurt, where we took a steamer down the river.
Back at work, Ted eagerly accepted assignments abroad, wherever news was being made. 1983 found him reporting from Grenada after the American invasion.
From the Port Salinas Airport in Grenada, I'm Ted Henry reporting for TV5 Eyewitness News. Hey, we have a story of dissatisfaction, disease, and death. It's a story of Cleveland area missionaries working among the Latin slums.
In 1989, Ted was the first local news anchor in the country to report live from Berlin, where the infamous wall was torn down.
The Iron Wall is coming tumbling down. It's a story of monumental importance, of course, for the people of East Berlin, for the people of East Germany, but also for many people of Northern Ohio, people who have relatives from here.
It's the tears in the eyes of the East Berliners that tells the story most graphically. I personally watched thousands of people come streaming through Checkpoint Charlie today. They carried with them in their tiny cars and on their backs all of their worldly possessions. Tonight at the Brandenburg Gate, Berliners are chipping away at the wall with their hammers. There are Ohioans here, military, people visiting relatives, of course, and vacationers. They know they're witnessing history. The communist bloc is falling. First Poland, and then Hungary, now East Germany. Communist leaders seem powerless to do anything but watch, and Europeans from both the West and the East are just shaking their heads in disbelief.
Along with News Channel 5 photographer Tommy Livingston, I traveled to Mother Teresa's hospice in Calcutta 5 years ago and was privileged to spend several days working among the dying men and women and the children in her orphanages.
One of my greatest gifts ever received was to be in her presence here in India, and to receive from her hand a rosary which she blessed and told me to keep forever.
Ted also traveled to Israel 6 times in the mid-1980s and early 90s to cover the trial of John Demjanjuk.
John Demjanjuk in Israel. Absolutely incredible pictures, seen as nobody has ever seen him before since he arrived here 8 years ago to be tried as Ivan the Terrible. Since the very day he left Cleveland, this has been home for John Demjanjuk. This is Ramla prison located outside of Tel Aviv. Demjanjuk has been seen on television speaking English only a handful of times, and those occasions involved only brief greetings when he was being led in and out of court. But finally, we have a chance to see him as relaxed and as natural as possible, considering the circumstances.
What causes you fear today? Anything?
Today, the thought of dying and not being spiritually ready.
Ted's assignments have garnered 6 local Emmy Awards over the years, but perhaps his most prestigious honor came as a result of a documentary Ted wrote, hosted, and produced in 1995. Finding Aliza was the story of 2 Holocaust survivors who met at a concentration camp in Auschwitz in 1944 after decades of lost contact. Ted accompanied one of the survivors, a Cleveland woman, on her journey to Israel to find her lost friend. This powerful documentary later won 2 National Iris Awards.
Living here in these 3 little grass houses is a family, really. It's actually a couple of families. There's 14 people. This is their kitchen. And this charcoal, actually, it's just dried out wood, keeps burning just about 24 hours a day. They always have it going. It conserves the use of matches. Their expenses inclusive of everything around here.
And when he felt passionate about the civil injustices in our world, Ted was not afraid to step out of his anchor role to deliver a social commentary.
We should care because of the people who are struggling to live better lives in Latin America. We should care because these people are living under oppressive governments supported with economic and military aid from our country. We should care because we're helping to prop up a dozen or more shahs in Latin America. But if we don't care, watch out. These shahs could be replaced by a dozen or more ayatollahs. We think it's a Cleveland story worth telling. That's why we went to the effort of traveling to Latin America to bring it back home to you.
In recent years, Ted continued doing what he does best, reporting the events of the world and interviewing those who affect us all.
Did you ever think at the last minute, this is a mistake, I'm going to stay here come hell or high water?
I could not stay. I'd be in bankruptcy in 60 days if I did stay. Pure and simple.
Good evening, I'm Ted Henry reporting from Rome. From the very moment Pope John Paul II's body was buried on Friday afternoon, it has been raining here in Vatican City.
Osteen is also heavily criticized for not going to seminary.
How do you handle critics who accuse you of not being strict enough in the way you interpret the Bible?
I feel that my strengths are to encourage people, to help them live their everyday life. And so I just go back to saying you can't be everything to all people.
And speaking of spirituality, Ted put his passion where his mouth is, on the TV screen. For the past 7 years, he wrote and produced a regular series called Heart and Soul. Each week, Ted looked into spiritual inquiry and how different people process areas of spiritual pursuit to deepen and broaden their life.
I think doubt is very important. In fact, one of the great things for me is being a Christian agnostic.
You're a Christian agnostic?
A Christian agnostic, meaning agnostic is I have doubts.
It was 2 years ago when Pastor Ken Chalker dropped this bombshell on me. Doubts, he says, lead to truth.
You're a student of metaphysics, I know. Tell me how that has helped your growth.
It helped me to develop an approach to problems and challenges, and to have a philosophy to understand that God is everywhere present.
So, Connie reasons, if God is everywhere, then everything is God, which means everything is good, even things others consider bad.
I believe that at some level when we are experiencing pain and trauma, it is because our soul needs that experience in order to continue its growth.
After the break, Ted Henry himself will join us for some final words.
I think I know Northern Ohio as well as anybody can. The strength of this area has more to do with its families than anything else. I'm from this area. I've been here for over a decade at Channel 5 in Cleveland. And I think I'm here for one reason, because I have a feel for the community. I feel like I belong here. I know the people. I like the people. I prefer to think they feel the same way about the job we do on TV5.
Catch Ted Henry on TV5 Eyewitness News.